Welcome to the Northern Utah NTMA Apprenticeship Training webinar. In this webinar, titled Understanding the On-the-Job Requirements, Travis Minion will take you through the Department of Labor requirements for apprenticeships, review the Northern Utah NTMA suggested templates to meet the requirements, and answer the webinar participant questions about the process. Also remember that there will be additional webinars coming soon to help you create your apprenticeship program. If you have any questions about the process, please contact Travis or Helen. Now let's join Travis as he presents Understanding the On-the-Job Requirements of a Department of Labor Approved Apprenticeship Program.
This link that I'm going to show you here in just a second, but it's going to take us to a web page that gives us just kind of a good overview of what the apprenticeship is set up to be and how it works. I'm going to mute this so you guys can see what's going on here on my screen, but you can go through these different slides, and it has let me look at this outline here. So it talks about what a registered apprenticeship is and how to work with them. Talks about what components exist in here, how to start a program, what they look like without a labor agreement, which I'm pretty sure most of us will fall under that. So anyway, this is just a resource for you to help you become familiar with what a registered apprenticeship looks like, and to educate yourself a little bit more on this whole entire process. The next thing I want to look at is this Quick Start Toolkit, and you guys should have all received one of these in a previous email from Helen. And real quick, I'm going to open that up. I want to look at a couple of key points on this file. Again, this is just a resource for you. That's the first little bit here. It's what I'm trying to provide for you, some things that you can use to educate yourself and help understand what all this is about and what it takes to build one, to build your apprenticeship, and what our role is in helping you with that as well. So exploring an apprenticeship as a strategy is something that we've already done. That's why we're sitting here today. And partnering with key players is also something that we're already doing today. The Northern Utah NTMA is your key partner, really, for each of you, and you are our key partner to help us get this thing working and something that's good for everybody involved. Building the core components is primarily what we're going to talk about today and what it's going to take, because this is building the core components is kind of your deal. It's kind of your responsibility. You need to put that together for your company, and then the Northern Utah NTMA will help you register it and launch it, and we will help you administer it moving forward. So this kind of goes through steps in a little bit more detail. But right here on this page, this is page number 4 of this PDF file, this Registered Apprenticeship 101, this is another link that is very extremely valuable to you, and I would encourage you to follow that link. It's inside the PDF, and read what they've got there on the DOL's website. Frequently asked questions. There's a lot of information in here that I think you guys should take some time to preview and get to know. Again, partnering with key players. This includes each of us as well. So we've got the workforce system, which is the Department of Labor, and economic development, of course, is the state of Utah, and they've been very key in helping us be able to put this together. Our local education, we're going to be marketing to them. The Northern Utah NTMA is going to be working with all of our educators to market the apprenticeship to help us bring in qualified candidates, as well as just to kind of get the word out for all of us. Our state apprenticeship agencies, our community colleges or trade schools, You know, all these things are all your resources to help you put together this program. So be aware of that. Let's see. Core components. Okay, so this building the core components of your apprenticeship program. This is going to kind of walk through what we're going to do, the business involvement. Obviously, you guys are the foundation of any registered apprenticeship program, but certainly you're the key to your own apprenticeship program, without question. The goal is to create a structured on-the-job training for the apprentices, and the related instruction, this is your classroom portion that's required. There are monetary rewards for the skill gains for each employee, and hopefully as those skills are developed, there should be monetary gains for your business as well as you get more and more qualified people inside of your company. And then, of course, the Department of Labor offers this credential, which is registered on a national level, and you know, those that's a credential that your employees can have with them forever, stay with them throughout, you know, throughout their entire careers. So this just goes through that a little bit more. Apprenticeship programs can be customized, and there's three main customizations for this. There are time-based programs where the only thing you do is track the amount of time that an apprentice spends, and they approach their journey level skills by simply tracking the time that they work it. There are competency-based programs where it's not so much about the time, it's really just about signing off individual skills as they progress through. And then there's a hybrid approach. And this hybrid approach is the approach that we're going to be utilizing, and it is a combination of both the time, so the 8,000 hours, as well as the competency-based. So what we're going to talk a little bit today when we get into these sample templates is creating your competency lists and being able to track the time as well in these templates that I've got put together for you. This here is just kind of give some apprenticeship models. There is a traditional model where you have classroom instruction, on-the-job training, and a starting wage. And then you progress through for year 2 with the same. Your wage increases as your skills increase, or the employee's wages increases, their skills increase. Year 3, year 4 is more of the same. Their pay begins to get to an upper level, and they end up with their final credential at the end of their 4 years for 8,000 hours. This is very common to do for somebody to do their classroom training throughout those 4 years and in conjunction with their on-the-job training. However, it's also possible to have front-loaded schooling, so maybe somebody's already done their trade school and has a certificate there when you hire them, but then they can also continue on with some of their education portion and as well as their on-the-job training, and then they can finish off in the last 3rd year or 4th year or however it works out to just the on-the-job training and finish off their required hours and their required competencies within your company to finalize with their credentials. So there is no really fixed way. You don't have to have the classroom first. You don't have to have the job training or on-the-job training first. You can do them together. You can do one first or the other one. It's kind of, you know, it's flexible. So as you hire employees and apprentices and start moving people into this program, you can work with whatever their unique situation is and still fit it into what you have set up for your apprenticeship. Right here, again, there's some more links. This introduction to apprenticeships, how to set up the registered apprenticeship. That might be an interesting piece of information for you. Actually, I think this is the same link I showed you before, but realize that, you know, Northern Utah NTMA, we're here to help you with all of this stuff as well. So these are resources to help you gain an understanding of what all is going on behind the scenes. When we get ready to register our apprenticeships, that's, let me give you a little deadline, actually, an assignment at the end of this presentation, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage getting your core apprenticeship built, so that then we can start working through the month of January to get the registrations done and get them ready to kick off and start bringing in apprentices. Let's see. I know there's one other thing on here I wanted to show you. Of course, launching your apprenticeship will help you through all that as well, but at that part, a lot of it's really kind of ready to go. The marketing and outreach, of course, we're doing. Recruiting the candidates we're helping with, but obviously that's going to be your choice on who you hire and who you think fits in your program. What I really want to talk about is this assess and continuously improve. I think it's important for everybody to realize that whatever you kick off originally, if it needs to be adjusted and updated, if you either put information in there that maybe isn't as valuable to you today, or isn't being utilized very well, or if you needed to add something to it later that you forgot about when we first put it together, we can always go back and we can reassess these programs, and we can improve on them and resubmit them and get it all taken care of. It's not a big deal. It's not a difficult process. So just be aware that this is an evolving program. Each one of your individual companies will put together a program that will be continuously evolving and being improved. Okay, back over to the PowerPoint. We're going to go over these templates. Again, hopefully you guys have received all of these through email and you've got copies of all of them. You won't need them today, but I would encourage you, after I show you a few things on them, to go in and play around with them a little bit, get an understanding of what they are and how they're set up now, whether or not they'll work for you, and what we need to do to make something so that it will work for you. Okay, sample number 1. Go here. This one we showed at the kickoff meeting. It's a very, very simple sample. There's not a whole lot to it. You could put your company name in here. You could put sign-offs in here. Something as simple as this can be utilized. However, I'm going to show you some other ideas that I would encourage, just to make sure that your apprentices are getting what you need from them. It'll actually help you as an employer to do a little better job of getting what you need out of your employees as you train them up. So again, this can work. If this works for you, that's great. I'm going to show you some other things. This would require some type of a log. This particular file doesn't have a log in it, but I will show you some documentation logs that I have put together in these others. And again, like the sign off and the other thing that's important to realize is throughout this entire program, whatever your company's expectations are, will carry through on this entire thing. So you might want to have a tab or a document of some sort that lays out what your expectations are of these apprentices, and they not only have to do their hours and the schooling and the, each individual skill and sign those off, they also have to show up for work on time and, have a good attitude. Whatever your expectations are that you've got set up can all be incorporated into this and be a part of your program as you move forward. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's see. Sample 2, this one's going to be a little bit more complex. As we go through this, it's going to take a few more minutes on this one, but you'll see that there are hours attributed on both the main category, so like CNC lathe, as well as individual skills under each category. So the CNC lathe will have specific skills to be able to be done with a machine or, some type of a main ability. This one will include some sample log sheets. It has some places for sign-off, and again, some form of a statement for your expectations is something I would encourage. I'm going to mention that a few times. So, okay, sample number 2. Get this up here so you can see a little better. A little too much. Okay, so here, I put a company name up across here. You could maybe line out expectations here. You could create a separate tab to put in expectations, but this is kind of the meat of it. So if we say on a CNC mill, we want to have a total of 2,000 hours on that machine, and during those 2,000 hours, we need to spend at least 100 hours setting fixture offsets or work offsets, at least 100 hours setting tool offsets. And again, this is all very open to you. Maybe you don't have a CNC mill in your shop. Maybe you don't have a lathe. Maybe you have screw machines, whatever. We can switch these categories, make them what you need them to be. We can make these competencies what you need them to be. We can spell them out in a lot of detail, or they can be very simple. Again, this is it's your program, and it's up to you. We're just trying to give you some base starting lines that you can begin with and build upon. And then, hopefully we're just getting some groundwork laid for you. Over here, I've applied some competency codes, and I'll show you on the next tab how this is going to work. And then inside of each one of these, I've got an Excel formula, and this can just be copied and moved along. But what it does is allows us to go to a year 1 training log, and during week 1 of the first year, so there's 52 weeks, okay? In competency 1.1, maybe we do 15 hours, and in 2.2, we did 10 hours this week, and some other competency, we did another 15 hours. So we see weekly total, we get 40 hours total for the week. As you go down here, each one of these competencies, you can see how many hours you're building on the log sheet. But also when you come back here, you can see these hours totaling up as a complete. So you can see there's 15 hours applied towards the CNC mill. All 15 of those hours are applied towards setting fixture offsets. And, so on and so forth. 10 of those hours were spent setting tool offsets on a CNC lathe. You can see how this can be set up, and every week the mentor and the apprentice can make sure that these hours are put in and applied correctly. And as you go through each year, it just continues to add up and tracks all of the time that they're putting in. And then these competencies, you can make sure that the hours are taken care of, obviously, and you could also create a statement maybe in your expectations sheet that says mentors only initial when, this competency has been satisfied, when they feel like the skill level is there as well as the time. So there's certainly ways for you to manage that, make sure that it's not just somebody spent 10 hours doing the same thing but didn't really learn anything. You can make sure they're getting the breadth and the depth of the skills that they need as they go through here and put in their time on each one of these categories and competencies. Hopefully that is a decent explanation. Sample 3 is going to be very similar to Sample 2, but this one I've changed a little bit, so you're really hours to the main category. So we're only going to attribute the hours to the machine, for example, and then instead of tracking hours on the individual skills, this individual skills are simply a sign-off. When the mentor or the trainer says these skills are good for this apprentice, they understand it and they get it, then they can sign that off at that time. Excuse me. So the hours still have to be built, they still have to be tracked. That's the hybrid portion of the program, but the skills don't necessarily need an hours basis. And that way, it might give you some freedom and flexibility for somebody that's really catching on to certain aspects of their job and maybe struggling on other aspects, and so you can give them the flexibility of more or less hours on specific skills in order to get those things signed off. And this one also has a sample log sheet, but this log sheet's going to be a little bit different. Let me show you a little different idea on how this can be done. And again, we have places for sign-offs and initials. And this one I've actually got a tab of some general expectations, just as a very brief example of something that could be done. this in again a little bit. Maybe just a touch too much. Okay, so on this one I have initials, columns for both the apprentice and the mentor. Again, we're not going to track hours on each skill, on each competency, but we are going to track the overall hours for each machine. And just while we're going along this, I've got the machines at the top. It's easy to see that, but you can put in anything: part finishing, deburring, if you've got a tool crib or some type of tooling education or skill that you want these guys to have, or your employees. If you have a CNC programming department or solid modeling or programmable CMM, you guys can make this what you want it to be. So, keep your ideas open and available and brainstorm. Obviously, I'm willing to help as much as I can, as much as you would like. So keep that in mind, and then we can break this down, give you what you want. I'm going to go one tab back on this one. Again, this is just very brief, but you could put in, specific expectations for safety and being to work on time, your housekeeping or 5S or 6S, productivity, expediting, whatever you guys have for your expectations that you want. You could very simply set up a sheet here, and they just have to get their initials and their approval from their mentor, their supervisors, that they're meeting these expectations, along with all of this overall progress. So on the log, for another idea on the log, this one is set up as 6-month intervals. So your week 1 through 26 of the first year, and week 27 through 52 of the first year, and so on and so forth. And along here, we can plug in whatever hours, however many hours he spent on the mill, or he or she. I apologize to get politically correct. Right? So he or she spends 40 hours on week 1 on the mill, and on maybe week 2 he's on the lathe. He or she is on the lathe for 40 hours. Maybe they did 15 hours here and 25 hours there on week 3. And so we can see they're tracking their hours on their main categories. If we come back to this, you'll see them adding up here. We can track here versus what is required as a total. And then on this, where those competencies need to be a sign-off, you could simply plug it in here and have just this as a sign-off. Or maybe you have setting tool offsets or something, but you have some subset of competencies, and you could put them into here. The other option to this is you could say, in the first 6 months, there are a certain set of competencies that are required to be done. So they have to learn how to use a set of calipers. They have to learn how to run 0 to 1 mics or a height stand. There's different things that maybe you just want to guarantee and ensure that in any given period throughout their progression, that this apprentice is learning these certain skills. And then again, there's an initial sheet here to make sure they're passing those off throughout this 6-month period. This additional competencies is just kind of a catch-all that would allow you to have some flexibility. So you have a certain amount of required competencies, and the additional ones, maybe you call them optional. Maybe additional is not the right word. Maybe optional competencies is better, where they need to pick up another 4, but they can pick out of some, optional grouping to get another 4 competencies. Again, this is up to you, but it's an idea. I know some people are doing things similar to this and having great success with it. And then you can just have a tab here that's a complete list where you put in, whatever this competency is, and it equals whatever, the specific skill is that they need to have. So this just gives you a way to dial down a little bit more detail if you so desire. It's another option. So this template is probably the most time-intensive to set up, at least in my opinion. However, it also provides an awful lot of information and an awful lot of checks and balances if you're, if you're really trying to make sure that your apprentices are getting very specific skills and very specific abilities as they progress through here. And you kind of want to time some of those skills and things as to what they're learning at different stages of their apprenticeship. This is a really good way to do it. So, okay, back to the slideshow. All right, so some questions and ideas. First of all, I told you I was going to give you a homework assignment. This is it. You need to review the information that you've got, some of the links that I've shown you, and the files that you should have gotten them. If you haven't, make sure you get hold of me or Helen McNally, and we will get them to you. We both have them, have access to them, so we can get them to you with no problem. Start generating your ideas, and then start trying to take these templates, figure out what works best for you, and try and create a base program, kind of a draft, by the end of the month. We really want to try and get these finalized by the end of January and get registration started in order to have this have apprentices being hired into each of your programs in the springtime. So we don't want to put this off too long. We really need to get it rolling, and it's beneficial to all of us. So hopefully you can take that statement in the context that it's intended as. You're always welcome to contact me directly. Here's my phone number. This is my mobile number, and you can call me anytime. Don't worry about it. It's never too late or too early. And then this is my email address. Feel free to email me if you've started to work on something and maybe you've run into a little bit of a hiccup, or you're not quite sure how it works, or maybe you've got something that's together and you just want to review in a second set of eyes. Again, all I can tell you is I'm offered to help. As much as you need, get hold of me. I will do everything I can to help you out. I've helped build an apprenticeship program before and been through one myself, and I don't claim to be an expert, but I do claim to be willing to try and help you guys get whatever you need out of this. So also be aware that as the group gets bigger and there's more and more companies that are becoming a part of this, because of my willingness to help, I'm worried that I'm going to get a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm already putting together a couple of extra people that I'm teaching them how these templates work and how the apprenticeships work, and there will be additional support for you guys and for any other companies that join and want to be a part of this. So, but if you're struggling along those lines, again, I will always be available. You can always get hold of me. So I don't want anybody to be too shy or worry about it. I just can't say that enough. I'm willing to help. Okay, guys, it is up to you. Some open discussions. I'm going to switch my screen just a little bit because I cannot see the GoToWebinar thing. All right. Okay, I've got that up.
Travis, this is just Paul. Thanks.
Hi,
I mean,
Paul.
that was really a good overview. I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to put all that together. I had a couple of questions. The stuff that you explained, and actually before I get started, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box over there. And then from there, I can forward them out to everybody, or I'll read them to Travis to get them answered, whichever. But go ahead and enter any questions you have. The stuff that you just showed us, that looked like it was primarily on-the-job training. Is the classroom training going to be separate? Is it something different, or is it part of that you showed us?
Yeah, so at least in my experience, the schools have had their own ways to track progress. So you'll work with the school to help get a program that works in conjunction with your apprenticeship, and then as the apprentices progress through that schooling portion, the schools are tracking their attendance as well as their progress. So there's usually separate documentation that will come directly from the school as far as pass, fail, what their grades are, are they spending enough hours, and are they in class when they're supposed to be, things like that. But typically the school will track all of that, and then you can just roll this into either scan it and attach it or into the same folder You just take the document that the school gives you and roll it back into this same thing, however you're going to file it inside of your company.
So then just to review, the total for the 4 years was like 500 hours or something for the classroom? Do you remember what that was?
I actually don't have it in front of me, but it seems like it's like 570.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact number.
But the main thing here is what you've been talking about really is not the classroom stuff. It's the stuff that we do here at our shop to track the things that are happening actually at our shop.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Okay, we have Kevin ask, who will work with the ATCs, getting them set up? Which ATCs are participating? I'll take that answer because there are two things that are going on. One is the next webinar that we will have will be, we will probably have the ATCs be part of that webinar. But the first part of your question is who will work with the ATCs at getting them set up. It's going to be you working directly with the ATC. What we're going to do is we're going to work with the ATC so that they understand, and we're working with all the ATCs in the state. We're going to work with them so that they understand the minimum requirements that have to be met. And they will say, they will know, here's what you have to do from us to be able to qualify for the classroom portion. And then at that point, it's up to you to work directly with them. And the on-the-job part of it is what Travis has been explaining here. And the second part of that question is which ATCs are participating. To our knowledge right now, all of them, because they all have basic programs. So that would be BATC up in Logan. It would be the OWATC, the DATC, Salt Lake Community College, and Mountain Land in the South. So those are exactly what we're going to go over in the next webinar coming up sometime later this month. We'll have much more detail at that point. I think that's why I wanted to clarify what you're talking about here, Travis, is the non-classroom stuff, getting it set up. Correct?
Correct. Yep, correct.
Okay. Well, what other questions does everybody have? I mean, you did a great job here, Travis. I really appreciate it. I mean, no questions means you explained so much nobody knows what to ask. I have another another question here. Who's the primary contact for the Utah DOL, Department of Labor, regarding the apprenticeship program? Brett's asking that question.
His name is Bob Kaus, and he was there at our kickoff meeting. But if you want to email me so that I have your contact information, I can get you Bob's contact as well. So I can get you in touch with him if you have specific questions for the Department of Labor.
So now the templates that you went over, Travis, have you already sent those to us? Or you've just sent the Department of Labor information, right?
Well, the emails that went out for this webinar had those templates attached to them.
Okay,
perfect. Request that everybody take the time to look at them.
Okay, perfect.
So hopefully everybody's got those.
Okay, perfect. Kevin has another question. He said, say I hire a student from the ATC who has completed the coursework and has an ATC certificate. Does that complete their classroom coursework? That's the part that we're going to do, and we will have that by the time we do our next webinar, which, like I said at the beginning, will either be later this month or at the latest, the 1st of January. We will let the ATCs know what the minimum requirements are, because there's a minimum hour requirement from the Department of Labor, and that's really all it is minimum hours. Those hours can actually be done through an ATC, or they can be done by your company, either way. But we will make sure that all of the ATCs understand that if you do this portion of their program, that it will meet the requirements, and we'll have that all defined for you. That's the reason that I'm not sure of the date, because I need to get specific answers from all of the ATCs on what program would qualify. Does anybody have any other questions? Do remember that this is recorded. We will send you a link to this so you can go back and listen to this if you have any questions. If you have any questions at all, Travis has given you his contact information. And I believe, of course, through him, you can get contacted to any of us. We will be doing the next webinar here very soon. And that one will go specifically over what's going to be required for the ATC portion. And then at that point, I think it's just getting everything in place and actually, starting to make it happen. Steve asked, is the Davis ATC tech participating? The answer is yes, they will be. Ken asked, is there a template for the registration process? So and I guess I'll throw that back to you.
That answer is yes. There is a registration process. Once we get to a point where we have at least the base drafts of each of your programs, each of your apprenticeships, then we'll start looking at what the registration looks like, the application form, things like that. It's all very straightforward, simple. There's nothing crazy about it at all. But really, this is the first step. If we don't have a program to register, the rest of that's it's a little bit of overkill actually right now. I've got all the documentation, and there's an awful lot of things that we can read through and discuss, and I'm happy to discuss that with you if you have any questions. But for the purpose of this webinar at this time anyway, I really feel like getting a base program together is a first step, and then we can go over the actual applications and see what goes on from there. And the other thing to realize is the applications are passing through the NUNTMA because we are your sponsor of each of these apprenticeships. So ultimately, all those applications have to come through us, and we're going to have to help fill them out and get them turned in anyway. So hopefully that answers your question.
So make sure I understand here, Travis. So the basic timeline for what we're doing right now, the first step is to define your the template that you just presented to us. Which of those templates makes most sense for me in my organization? Once we've got that defined and kind of have an idea of how we're going to get it filled out, maintain it, that kind of stuff, then the next step would be the classroom portion, which would be typically done at the ATC, even though it could be done by the company, but it's usually easier to go through the ATC. What are the requirements there? I will be talking about that later this month, or at the latest 1st of January. Then what's going to be the next step after that, Travis?
Once we've got the programs dialed in, then the next step is to do the registrations and start filing the documentation with the Department of Labor.
And do we have an idea on when we think we'll be doing that?
Pardon me?
Do we have an idea on when we think we might need to have that done, or when that should be done?
I know Helen would like to start them in January. My guess is by the time we get through the schooling portion and have our programs kind of dialed in where each company wants them, I would guess we're near the end of January and into February. And then it's probably going to take, I think we're counting on 2 months for the Department of Labor just to pass the paperwork and sign off on each program. And then we can start hiring apprentices into each one of them. So that's kind of where we're looking. I think we're really trying to be full bore in this by March or April. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn on that. Helen may be cringing right now, but that's what I remember. I think that's what she was trying to get to.
So then really the first step is to set up your company's apprenticeship program, and that's why you did this today, because you're saying here's three basic options. Here's three basic options, and they go from there.
It's really important to realize that the basic foundation of an apprenticeship program is an apprentice being trained on the job by another skilled individual, somebody who's a mentor or a journey person already somebody who already has been there and done that. And so they get the hands-on. That's one of the single biggest benefits to this form of an education is, these apprentices get the hands-on, working side by side, the mentorship and the face-to-face training from somebody who really knows what they're talking about, can really help direct them in the ways that each company needs them to go. And so these templates and this base program for the on-the-job training is kind of the key foundation to the whole deal. And once you've got that together, it'll make a lot more sense to each company when you go to the ATC and you say, these are the classes I need to supplement the on-the-job training that we've got going on in-house. And I don't mean to downplay any other portion of the apprenticeship, but I do think it's important to realize that it's what goes on inside of your company on the shop floor, that on-the-job training is the key to all of this, and it will drive all the rest of your decisions from the schooling side and how many apprentices you're going to bring in and what you should be able to expect from them on the end of it. Does that help, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. So I have another question here. Which sample template is going to be the most commonly used? Is there a most common of the three you showed us?
Nobody's chosen one yet. My own personal thoughts, I tend to lean towards the second one. I like the idea of being able to ensure that there's a certain number of hours spent doing certain specific things. But there again, there's room for various ideas and thoughts on all of it. But yeah, I lean towards the second one. I think the first one is oversimplified. It could work and it could get you started and give you something to build off of in the future. But I don't think there's quite enough there to truly ensure as an employer that I'm building the skill levels that I want of my machinist in my shop. That's just Travis's thoughts. The second one, like I say, I lean toward, I think that the tracking and the log and the sign-off and all that works really well with it. It seems to be pretty seamless, and I like the way that's all worked out. The third one is great, and it provides a lot of things, but it can really become expanded upon to the point where, it's almost every little detail is being picked at, and now it has to be documented and tracked and signed off, and so I think that one opens up a door to make your program extremely difficult and complex. Not that that's bad. If that's what you want and that's what you need, then that's definitely the direction you should go. But that's Travis's opinion on it for whatever it's worth.
Can you pull up that second one, Travis, so we can see it? Then Ken, while you're doing that, Ken asked, he's got in here in the question box, basic program draft equals on-the-job training template, ? Do you understand? Ken, I'm not sure if, give me just a second here. Ken, I'm not sure if you're I'm not sure if you're somewhere where you can talk. I've unmuted you. Can you ask the question?
Yeah, he's asking us to complete the basic program draft, and so I'm just saying, okay, he wants us to fill out one of them job training templates based upon what we think. Is that what that's what our assignment is, to have by the 31st? To pick one of them templates.
Yep.
Okay, that's where I was getting confused. Okay, and then we'll find out later about what the classroom requirements are, and we'll overlay them onto our job training template.
That would be my recommendation.
Most sense.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said that would be my recommendation, because the hardest part and the most intensive part is going to be this part right here. The classroom part, I think, will fit right in, because we're going to find that it's basically going to be the ATC programs pretty much as they're set up. So yes, I would recommend that you focus on this first.
All right, so 570
the
hours.
other thing that, sorry.
Okay, there's like 570 hours, and there's like it's kind of like 4 years, 570 hours. Should I take like 570 hours, divide by 4, and kind of lay them into my base program? I mean, just as a rough draft to start with.
You're talking about for the classroom portion?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay. All right. I'm good.
Okay, Travis, go ahead.
I was just gonna add on the classroom thing. By putting together these base templates to begin with, you may find that certain things make more sense for you to teach inside of your own shop and teach it on the job. And that's, that it may be your opinion or your feeling that that's the best way for these apprentices to learn certain skills, and yet other skills might be just a better use of their time as well as your time to have them learn at school. For example, blueprint reading. They're going to do that day in and day out in your shop, but as far as learning all the little intricate details for how section views are called out and things like that, I mean, the bookwork portion of that, that's something that kind of leans towards a classroom environment, in my opinion, some of your shop math and things like that. So that's the other thing you can do with this. Once you have your base template for your on-the-job training portion, once you have that kind of worked out, it's also easy to see where certain holes can be filled maybe even better by a school and get those skills taken care of in a more efficient manner, and allow your employees and your apprentices to focus on the things they're doing on the job and make the best use of their time as well. So just another thought, but another reason why I think these templates, they're first. These templates will drive everything else that you do with your apprenticeship. It's going to make a big difference. If everybody will take the time and sit down and start working through this and trying to put this together, you're going to answer a lot of your own questions. I'm not trying to tell everybody not to ask questions. Keep asking them for sure. But I just think that there's a certain amount of education that you're going to get just starting to work through this and trying to solve what you need to solve to make this what you need it to be. Anyway, back to this template. This is the second template that I was telling you that I tend to kind of lean towards, the one that I like. This competency code and tying that in, with kind of a primary level and a sub-level type of a format. The logs, I really like these logs. There again, we can do a lot of the same stuff regardless. It's just Excel, so anybody that knows Excel very well can do what they want with it. But I don't know. I just like the way this one came together. I think it works really good. I like the sign-offs here, being able to make sure that each week, there was a total number of hours worked in the week, even if there was overtime. The initials stating that they did work, those hours, and they were applying them to the right skills. You could very easily add another tab that lines out what each one of these is, but it's here, so it's probably not necessary. I don't know. If we go back to the third one, just as kind of a comparison, this one, as far as tracking the hours, it's a little more simplified. And if all you did from there was give these individual competencies and you spell them out however you think they should be, and it's just simply a sign-off, that's still a pretty simple system. However, if you want to start saying, these certain things are required in the first 6 months, and then maybe there's a minimum of 4 more, and again, it's an option. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that something like this, as you start working through all the individual skills and things that you want somebody to have, and that's beneficial to you, you can blow this up to where, you know, your competency list has hundreds and hundreds of skills that all have to be individually tracked and individually signed off. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but at least for me and my company, it's more than I want to do. It's more time and more administration than I have to put into this. So, but like I say, I know of companies that are doing things very similar to this, having a lot of success with it. So I hate to sound like I'm trying to discourage anybody from using it either. It's just what works for me. And what works for me in my company is this sample too, I think. But
so Travis, can
yeah,
the template that you have pulled up right now, is the intent that there would be one template like that for each apprentice?
Are you still there, Paul?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Sorry, I lost you for a minute.
Okay, yeah. Is the intent of this, the one that you have up right now, is there going to be one of these Excel sheets for each apprentice? Or how does that work? Okay.
Yep, one of these for each apprentice. So in my company, I would just take this and I would save it in a folder under an employee name, and that would be his, you know, his or her apprenticeship file. And any of the documents that I get from their schooling, from the educational centers, would be scanned and saved in that folder, as well as any updated list of these. And I mean, this really is kind of a live document that's ongoing, so you can almost just have this one file. The only reason why you might want to save multiples is so that every time you submit to Helen for her to submit to the Department of Labor, you know, if you want to save it in stages so you can show how the apprentice has progressed throughout the program over time, obviously you could do that as well. But I think I would just keep one document, just let it keep on growing as they go.
Okay, we have Rick has another question. Does the mentor have to have any qualifications in the eyes of the Department of Labor?
The Department of Labor leaves that pretty wide open to you. It's really kind of up to the employer to decide what makes the mentor qualified. And then there will also be a statement in your application when we register this thing as to how many apprentices can be assigned to one mentor. That's so if you wanted to set some type of a restriction to make sure you don't have one very skilled guy in the shop that's trying to train 50 different apprentices at the same time. And that's optional to each employer. It's not a requirement that you create a statement for that. But you know, it's there and it's available to you if you want to. So, but as far as the skills required for whoever the mentor is, it's really up to you. I'm sure you're going to pick somebody that you think is qualified to be training and signing people off as they're developing their skills. I would suggest as you get through it that, you know, you take your most skilled guy and you grandfather him in, and you get him through that last year, a little bit of school maybe, and get that individual an apprenticeship or a journeyman certificate. It's a little bit of a badge of honor to give to your top employee, and now you've got a perfect mentor moving forward as well. But it's not necessary. The Department of Labor does not require that.
We don't have any more questions. So Travis, would you, if you do have any more questions, go ahead and enter them now. Travis, just one more time, would you go over the timeline again? So what do I need to do here at my company, and by when?
So I would ask that everybody takes one of these templates, maybe play around with a few of them, and gets a general base program put into that template that fits your company by December 31st. And along with that, I would suggest that you get hold of me so that we can go over it together and make sure that, you know, there aren't any other questions, or if there's something else that you want added to it, I can help you put that together. And that's what I would like to see by December 31st. It's just kind of a base idea, a direction for your company and a direction for your training program so that we can move forward into January with some good solid, what would it be, tasks, I guess, finalizing tasks to finish up the details of your program.
And then let me add the next step. The next step will be to decide the classroom portion. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to use ATC, the standard ATC stuff? We will answer that question in the next webinar, which, like I said, I'm hoping will be before the end of the year. That should be just a yes or no question. If the answer is, I want to do my own, then you're going to have some more work to do. If you choose to use the ATCs, basically your work's done, because you just say, you got to go get this fulfilled. And then after that, Travis, now we have both the on-the-job and the classroom in place. What's next after that?
The next step after that will be the registrations. That'll be starting to submit documentation to the Department of Labor.
And when do we want to have that done?
We want to have that done by the end of January. Yep. So that'll be the next major timeline or deadline.
Okay. And then after that, there's an approval process that you're saying takes about 2 months. Is that?
I think we're counting on it taking 2 months.
And then after that, everyone's that's done all that, their apprenticeship program is approved. At that point, we're going to start seeing recruits come out of the Northern Utah NTMA program, that's the whole idea, that then we can start matching to this. Okay?
And just so everybody's aware, the marketing for that is already well underway and looking very, very good too. We got the NTMA has a very good, very strong partner to go out and help market this for all of us employers, to help us get apprentices and qualified people applying to our companies. So just be aware that there's a lot of work being done on that already, and it's got a lot of momentum.
And then there's no other questions. I guess at that point, Travis, do you have any last words you would like to say here today?
No, I just look forward to hearing from all of you. So,
okay.
Stay in touch.
Again, I appreciate your time. The intent of these is to use everyone's time effectively by meeting online, because now we can all go back to work. Really appreciate everybody coming and doing this. We will send you a link to the recording here soon, and you can expect an invite to the next webinar, which will be about the partners that you have, the ATCs, and probably custom fit. You should see that probably within the next week and a half. And there we go. Actually, we do have one quick question here at the end. Jerry wants to know, what are the guidelines for grandfathering machinists into the program?
Up to 75%. So if you have somebody that's a 10-year machinist, they can be grandfathered in for 6,000 hours, and they need to work the last 2,000 hours that are being documented. There's a few different ways you can track that for competencies and individual skills. We can certainly have a discussion about that, Jerry, if you want. It doesn't have to be difficult, though. What the Department of Labor requires is that they track 2,000 hours of on-the-job time before they'll issue the certificate. But the Department of Labor wouldn't even require any specific skills or competencies to be lined out. You just want to find a way to marry the grandfathering of an existing employee or a skilled employee into your program so that it fits for you.
And when we talk about the classroom portion, I believe that where we're going to end up is if they have gone through a classroom portion that qualifies, no matter how long ago, they are grandfathered in, they're qualified, but they will have to prove some classroom portion, whether it's something they've done somewhere else or, but I think that's the way it's going to end up. But we'll talk more about that when we actually get to the partnering part with the classroom portion. And Steve asked that question, is the schooling required for grandfathering? The answer is yes. If it's already done, you'll be fine. If not, then we're going to have to figure out something. Could be done on a one-by-one basis possibly. But those are the questions that you'll be able to ask here in the next webinar. So again, Travis, thank you very much. I just appreciate all the work and all the effort you've put into this.